2 years versus six.
Everything I do has to do with that. So values come up more.
You might put your present, I think, on that. Number box.
Here, I'll just, you know what, if you're okay with it, I will check you there. That's okay, Terry?
For goodness sakes.
Whoops. Oh, yeah, I was wondering, that's a pencil. I wasn't trying to steal it. I don't know, it was over by my book here, and I was like, I can't use that as a pencil.
Oh, I signed it.
Oh, did you? Whoops. Oh. Look black. I don't know. Oh, we have to have it, or? Oh,
Or am I sitting
I think so right now.
yeah, I thought that was all. I told her I wanted, she's asked if I wanted it on paper, and I told her I'll take everything on paper. That's possible.
Okay, so, all right, so when do we see the people on Zoom go up in the corner?
That's right here. You just have to find it out.
Oh, okay. Okay, so here's the probably 1 minute, start the meeting. Melissa, can you hear us? No, just thumb up, you can't talk. Yeah. She can?
Yeah, she said she should.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, okay, she's giving us a thumbs up.
Are we starting with any of these documents?
At 5:30? Yeah, Levon is going to, she brought everything, so I don't think you have to look at it.
Well, I didn't bring them copies, because I was assuming you guys probably have them on their laptops.
Do you need me to open up that document you sent me with all the houses?
Would it be helpful to them, or I'm not quite sure what would be.
I don't know where it is, so with right there.
That's why I didn't bring that, I struggled the whole time.
I would block myself a mouse
What's it?
because
Yeah.
I cannot stand to do this.
That double click, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just got myself a double.
Well, that's what I usually work as a mouse, and they sure are not.
Yeah. It was only $14.
Oh, I can see that.
Geez, yes.
It was my donation for birthday.
Oh, by car, if they're only that much, I'm gonna buy one for you.
Yeah.
Where do you get it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really, that's the ones I gotta work.
Plug it right here.
Perfect.
It was
Yeah.
nothing.
All right, Terry, it's 5:30, and we're live already. So, speak clearly, no marbles in your mouth.
It's 5:30, April 14th today, right? Open up the assessment meeting. Anybody, well, Levon, you're gonna take over.
If you're okay, I will kind of babble on here for a little bit. I would like to introduce, I do have a lot of new staff, and so bear with me here, a couple of them have been here before, but I'm gonna quick introduce. Joe has been with the county for 2 years, and he's been here, I think this is your third meeting actually, because it will almost be going well this year. But the very first week he was here, we kind of threw him into the board stuff, and then COVID, of course, last year kind of slapped us all in the face with how to handle these meetings and different things. So in the meantime, Austin's been here last year. He's been here a couple of years now with the county, and poor Patrick this is 11 months into the job. So we're doing a lot of training so that hopefully in the future they'll be able to take over meetings and see me all we are here because of values and classifications. That's the only thing that we can address during this meeting. Everything that I do has to do with the sales. For instance, the map right in front of Carrie here is a very good visual to see where the sales actually were. We also emailed out a list of all 21 sales that happened in town, which is up from last year, which was 13 good sales. Our sales year is a little tricky though, because the state says we have to use sales from October 1st of 2019 through September 30th of 2020 to set values for right now, which are for payable taxes next year. Okay? It's really confusing. So don't feel bad, especially hearing it the first time, because I see that we have several new board members. Unfortunately, we don't have a trained member, so this meeting is gonna be a little different than most meetings, because I'm just kind of, gonna warn you that it should become an open book where everything that comes in, it's kind of, you can help you advise us, but unfortunately you don't have a vote on it anymore, because you don't have a trained member. So, any questions about that, Mayor? Because I think you probably
No,
are.
I know what you gotta do.
Okay, okay,
And we have to wait 2 years before we can get a trained member again.
you
Is
do,
that correct?
you do.
Okay.
And then you'll reach out to me closer to that time, so we make sure that that trained member actually has a full length of training, so that way it's not a waste of time in between. So, I wouldn't send anybody to get trained next year, I'd wait towards the end of next year, so that way they get the full length. Unfortunately, the training is only open, usually, I think it starts in July, and it's only open until the 1st of February, so you have to get it in those months. So, yes, ma'am.
So I'm new, what do you mean by trained member?
So the Department of Revenue actually has specific training for council members and township board members, so they know how to handle this meeting, so they don't just arbitrarily make decisions that, let's say, your neighbor comes in and you know what, I like you, I'm gonna give you 10% off your value. Can't do that. There has to be a rhyme or reason, and so there is a method to our madness of how we come up with values, because our values are based on sales, the market, and everything that we put into the system is, we try to be very fair, consistent, and accurate, because it ends up being part of what you guys use for your budgeting, and it ends up being part of the, I'm gonna call it the mill rate, because most people know that as a mill rate, but the taxation rate ends up being very, very important for each of the jurisdictions. With the city of Goodhue, when you set your budgets, that rate is determined off of what we have for value in the tax capacity, and what your budget is tells us what that rate's going to be. So we don't want to overtax anybody or undertax them, because it's gonna hurt your budget. So ultimately, we try very, very hard to be very fair and consistent with our values. So they wanna make sure that board members are trained on what not to do and kind of what to do. So we did have several calls that came in about their value. We did end up raising values about 8% on residential properties this year on average. And when I say average, it's because it's not, no two houses are typically the same. So it always depends. I mean, there's a difference between a brand new house and an older house, and the size of the lots, and there's a lot of variables that come into that, so we say average. And I'm sure you guys noticed it on your valuation notices, the little pretty green paper that came out. That's the paper that we're referring to and that we can make changes on. I will kind of explain a few things that actually came in. We had 4 different, I'm going to call them issues that came up. The first one, Dick and I had a conversation, and several other people, about a property outside of town here. I'm gonna actually refer that one to the county board for Dick and I's interest, because of a program that the city is putting onto that property.
I think I need to explain that.
Okay, yeah, please do.
Okay. This is about Kenny Ryan's property. To a nuance, right, I'm gonna call it. We took 2 tax parcels, everything goes by tax parcels. So we took part of one tax parcel and part of another tax parcel and combined it into a new tax parcel. The county decided to assign a value of that for payable in 2021 of $114,900. That's got nothing to do with what the sale price was. The sale price was substantially higher than that. That's not the issue. then they want to do for payable in 2022, they want to set the value at 121,517, which is only an increase of about $700. The problem with that is that we have a 9-year tax increment project going on down there. So if it's only 9 years, the first year would be only like $500. And that's not the bill of goods we said we were going to do. So when this issue came up, so again, it's gonna be a lot more than that. I mean, I can't remember the exact figure, but it might be $50,000 your increment he was gonna get back. Because you remember, we had a 9-year deal up to like, I got the figures here, but 9 years up to like $900,000. So if we take that first year and only give them 500, because that's what the change is that first year, I don't think that's not what we told we were gonna do, okay? So the solution that we talked about with, I think Lori's on the line and myself and the consultant, was we wanted to change, we wanted to leave it the same. In other words, if we leave that parcel at 114,900 for 2021 and 2022, we'd have no tax increment, because there's no increment, and it means increase. So we'd have no increase in that year. Then the next year is when the big increment would be generated. Now, I prefer to do that this meeting, and Lonnie ain't gonna do that. I don't know, I'm not quite sure why, but we're talking about $7,000 fair value. But that's just, I guess that's the way it is. So the next step is that I want the city to pass a resolution to leave it at 114,900. Now, in normal circumstances, we could do that ourselves, but because we don't have this trained member, we can't do it. So then what I'm going to go do with the city's approval and backing, I'll go to that meeting in June. I wrote it down, it's on that's June 16th. Is that the right date?
15th,
okay.
at 6 o'clock.
15th at 6 o'clock. And I'm gonna go explain this to the county board, and I'm quite, Lavon's not gonna oppose it, right?
No.
You're gonna say it's fine, but you just didn't wanna do it on your own, correct?
Correct.
And if I put words in your mouth, just let me know, okay. So it's just a nuance of when we took the two parcels, because this is a new combined parcel, we had no value on it before. So that's what we wanted, I guess what I wanna do, so that we don't screw up that money we're supposed to pay back to Mr. Ryan. I mean, if I can answer some questions, I'll be happy to do it, happy to look.
So, just so I understood you wanna keep it at 114,900 for 2022?
Right.
And that's what you're gonna propose?
Yeah, and the county proposed it at 121,517.
And that's just with the adjustments, what we have done, very minimal with the agricultural land. Not as being a developed parcel for
Yeah.
commercial purposes, it was because it was agricultural land,
Right.
and based on agricultural sales. And a conversion from CER to CPI.
So I don't see this as a harm, talking about $7,000 in value, this should not have a big impact on Goodhue County or the school district or the city of Goodhue. But we're gonna have to get that approved, okay? And I didn't know about it until the county, we didn't know about it until the county got the tax parcel done, and then they could put a number on it, and that was last week.
And then however the TIF paperwork was written out, it would start immediately. And
Yeah.
so unfortunately, because it said, starting immediately,
Yeah.
with that increase,
Yeah, so
that would make it active immediately, and you don't want that to happen,
Yeah.
so.
Does everybody kind of understand, or have any more questions I can answer?
And that was
Mr.
it.
Truman looks like he has one sitting there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was concerned, because I was wondering how much it was because of the agricultural at first when he started talking.
Yeah.
The majority of that out there is.
And that's exactly what it was. I had no idea that this
Right.
project was even coming. And so
Okay.
we have to value property as it is. and
Okay.
for the highest and best use, but at that point, you know, I mean, they called me out saying, well, you know what the highest, you know, kind of the highest and best use is. Well, I kind of know, but I'm not going to also harm the farmers around here that actually have ag land within the city limits, thinking, ooh, you might develop that someday.
Well, but I mean, it is an issue though. I
It
mean,
is, and now that I know this is going on.
You can't accept this, you can't expect to sell land, hypothetically, somebody selling land for $25,000 an acre and then want to be taxed on $6,000 an acre. That's, there's a little bit of an issue with that, but whatever, that's not for me to decide or, but that's,
Isn't there a deal from, it's zone agricultural until they sell
right?
it. Then it's going by industrial commercial.
And zoning's a little bit different than classification for us, because ours is for taxation purposes, and zoning is how you allow them to use it. How that land could be used. So that was one of the 4 issues, and
Well,
then,
let's make sure, I just want to make sure
Okay.
everybody understands to the extent that they're comfortable. Because I'm gonna, when we're done with this, I'm gonna ask for a resolution to the county board to leave it at 114,900. Does everybody understand what we're trying to accomplish here? Okay, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
sure, thank you. And actually, do you want to kind of speak on behalf of these 3 that they were just contacting you
Sure,
for the value
sure.
purposes, and you don't have to necessarily go into detail, but she does like parcel numbers and names typically for
Okay,
the record,
I'll start
I'm
with,
assuming, right?
yeah. Eric Brandt is parcel number 641320070. He contacted me with concern about his value. He had talked to me earlier, prior to this, but you can't really appeal your value until you get your value statement. So once he got a statement, he contacted me, and so I reviewed his property, and he had said, because of COVID, we aren't doing inside inspection, so I requested interior photos, which he sent me. Reviewed it, and his finishes were pretty modest, based on, we had reviewed it like 5 years ago. So I had adjusted his grade.
And the bottom line is you adjusted his value from 277.3 to 267.1 is what you were recommending.
Yeah, that's my recommendation on that particular property.
Okay.
Okay, the next one was Lucas Meyer, parcel number 64.350.0070. Similar thing, he contacted me concerned about his value. They had just purchased this property, so
When did they purchase that?
4/13/2020. So, and then we had immediately, once the value went up, his value went up substantially. Well, I went out there and did a physical review of the exterior only, because we're not allowed to, and he did comply with sending interior photos, and I found numerous adjustments to be made. So ultimately, I recommend the reduction of 461,600 down to 432,200.
What was the first number?
461,600. Okay, then the last one.
What do you pay for it? What do you pay?
I'm sorry?
What do you pay?
He paid,
Was his $399?
he paid $399, yeah. And then, yes, he sold for,
Which one?
his right, the initial sale was, I think it was, $399. No.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you're
That's
not
right,
right.
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Well, yeah, I think his was $399.
I think it was $399 too.
Now, then,
That's what it said.
yeah. Okay, so the last one was just his neighbor up the street, and then, kind of laughed at the name because I thought it was humorous, but Jason Frankenstein. And he contacted me almost immediately after Lucas Meyer did, which I made him believe they were neighbors talking. So his concern was he had just purchased this summer in July for 400, I think it was 445 or 440, yeah, I think it was 445, 445,000. And our value immediately had jumped up to
463,500.
463,500. And again, you know, he thought we should drop it down to his purchase price for his value this year, and we don't sales chase, so I can't just arbitrarily say, yeah, that's the number we're going to use, because there are other items that come into the value determination. So what I did, same thing, I went out, did a physical inspection to the exterior. He did comply and sent some interior photos. Again, I found a few discrepancies. Some were positives, some were negatives. So what I ended up doing was taking a deeper look at his property. Is kind of for the area, for Goodhue, I gave him an adjustment for being overbuilt, for the over improved for the area. Ultimately ended up reducing him from 463,500 to 449,300, but I wasn't going to reach that 445 number that he requested. But
and being a newer board, we are not allowed to do sales chasing. We actually do mass appraisal, which means we have to look at every sale within our sales study, which means those 21 sales that are on that map and that list that we gave you, we have to use all of them to set our values. And so, as much as we'd like to go chase that 399,000 sale, we're not allowed to. Try to set our value down that low. We have to use the data that we put into the computer, which means, you know, how many bathrooms, how many bedrooms, how many, you know, square footage, all that good stuff. It helps calculate that value, and that helps us determine, you know, where are we compared to the market. We also do a comparison study and say, well, what has sold per square foot, and what are some comparables and stuff. So I think those are pretty fair numbers.
That issue that I had with both Myers and Frankenstein's with that, there weren't really any comparables in the area.
Not in this time. We don't have enough with 21 sales. They're not all big homes.
However, I did
Biggest
mention.
houses in town.
Yeah.
Huh?
They're the two biggest houses in
They
town.
are.
Exactly.
They are. And that's part of
Exactly.
the problem is we don't, other than those two sales, we don't have any other sales like that. So.
But ultimately, we will revisit these, you know,
We're gonna
we'll
keep
keep
an
it
eye
on the market for this fall, and, you know, revisit them and see if there's a, you know, possibility of adjusting them.
Oh, parcel number.
Parcel number,
64 350 0050.
Oh, I'm sorry.
could you, go over Eric Brandt's, what it went down to?
Yeah, yes, brands I had, it was at 277 300, and I reduced it to 267 100. It was just a modest change, but the finishes were just a little dated, and based on the neighborhood, and I did the comp search on his and looked at the neighborhood houses, and I felt that was a fair adjustment.
Do we have anybody on Zoom that we need to be worried about that has called in? Okay.
Do you have any additional questions on those properties?
So in a normal year, without having Zoom, you know, we do have residents usually coming in and at least listening, but I think Zoom and COVID and all that good stuff has kind of changed how we're doing things. And I don't know if that's going to be the new norm or what going forward, but.
So you can't go into houses, look them over though.
Not at this point, because we do not want to be reliable, or, because if we're going from house to house to house, we don't know if you have it, and then I go into Lori's
No,
house and
that's
she
what,
gets
that's what I'm
COVID,
asking.
and then she'll go, I gave it to her, and it's like, I haven't been sick, but I might be, who knows, we don't know enough about COVID yet, even with all the research over a year's time here. It's just not safe for anybody involved, so we don't want to get anybody sick. Whether we're bringing the germ in or just getting it ourselves, so.
And then ultimately, the majority of reviews, people are really good about sending their information simply because they want a result. And if we don't see that, we can't really do anything for them until they supply us with the information that we require. help us.
They have
We
to have-
try to, but we can't always do it.
And the burden of proof basically is on the homeowner that, help us understand what's going on with your property. We're not allowed in there, so either, take us through maybe on a FaceTime type of a viewing, or still photos are great, the old saying about a photo's worth 1,000 words, but sometimes it can be deceiving too, but everything that can help us, help you, we are willing to do that, so.
And any photos, interior photos we get are private, they're not shared.
They're not shared.
But I thought, trying to figure out how that was getting done, because
They email us their photos. They take the photos. It's all, everything's so digital now that, you take the photo on even on your phone and you can just send it to us. Email it off to us, and so.
well, it's like my daughter had hers assessed. She's selling it.
Oh, she probably had it appraised for selling purposes. Yeah, and that's different.
She
because
did,
that's
she
what-
took pictures inside, sent it to the guy.
Yeah, and that's one way to do it, or realtors are coming out, but they're not going from house to house. We're going, that's from appointment to appointment sometimes. And you don't want me to come in your house after I've been in 5 other houses at this point with all this going on, so. I don't think you do. Would you, Lori? I'm sorry, Lori. So,
You're here in this house, so.
there. Trying to stay our distance from you, there you go, socially distancing. So that's the fun that's been going on with phone calls. Now, the good thing about an open book is taxpayers do have until June to get a hold of us if they still have concerns. If it's a normal board, tonight would be the night and they're done. And then they can call, and if they miss it like others did last year, and then call you and chew you out and chew us out, we have to sit and listen to that, but nothing we can do.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah, so right now, they have quite a few more weeks here to work with us if they just notice their green documents in the
What's the
mail.
last date you said?
Well, the June meeting is, what did I say, what's 15th? June 15th, and so we'd like them to contact us before that, so we can have it resolved for that meeting.
So is that virtual or in person too?
That's going to be a virtual. So
And they have to make an appointment.
you're gonna call in or Zoom in, we have a go-to meeting.
And what time is that at?
You're at 6 o'clock, you're front and center.
But don't they have to have an appointment?
Well,
Specific time?
he does, I put him on immediately.
No, I'm just saying in general when,
Yeah, in general, to go to the county board, they have to have a meeting.
so if someone from here
Okay.
wanted to, appeal their thing tomorrow, it's not too late, but they have to have.
Well, no, they actually can deal with us.
Right.
They will deal with us, and if they don't like
don't
what
like
we
it.
say, they can make
Then
an
they
appointment to
can-
go to the county board.
Right. And there they have to have a specific time.
Yeah, to go to the county board, you have to have a specific time. They have to contact us, either through you or through us, to go there, so. Any other questions? If you don't have any more, I guess I will get out of your hair for now.
Thanks for coming, huh?
Well, I will probably see you in a couple of years, because next year what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna hold it with all our other ones, and people can contact us by phone or email, and it'll come into the county. Hopefully by then we'll be wide open, but right now it's only one door open to our building. But hopefully COVID will go away. Right, Lori, you promise?
Oh, I thought of a question.
Yes.
So, I understand that there could be people defaulting on their mortgages, and maybe it'll cause a surplus of houses on the market. At that time, could houses be valued lower and be selling lower, and would these prices be adjusted because of that?
So I worked during the recession. I unfortunately worked for the county for about 26 years now, so I've got a lot of years of experience, not necessarily in this department, but at least 15 in this department. So I lived through that fun during the last recession. And so what happens is, because of our sales year, October 1st last year through September 30th, okay, to get to this point, as that market may be going down, we're still maybe kind of peeking and knowing what's going to be coming, but we have to follow that trend. So basically we have to use those sales, and we cannot ignore that because the state will be all over me if I do. They are my big brother, the Department of Revenue, is my big brother, who licensed me, and them, is the Department of Revenue. So, I should say the state of Minnesota, but yes, we will follow the market down. The only problem is if there are foreclosures, the last go round, and still to this day, we're not allowed to use bank sales in our sales tax. If you live in a neighborhood where you have a lot of houses that are being foreclosed on in the bank sales, you know that's gonna affect your value. So if you're a property owner trying to sell and you got a house maybe on each side or down the street or whatever the situation is, you know you have to have your house valued low enough that that buyer coming in is gonna wanna buy your house at a competitive value. Because if they had 3 houses to pick from, there's gotta be something that stands out that they wanna buy yours. So we know it affects you, is we're gonna get caught up to that. The problem is we have to use arm's length transactions, and bank sales are not considered arm's length transactions. So yes, we will follow the market down, but I want to throw that out there, that if there's foreclosures, but the only thing that's, my opinion, which I shouldn't throw out there, but I'm throwing my opinion out there, the bubble hasn't burst because of the interest rates. I'm an economist, but I think we can all understand that interest rates keeping us consistent, and supply and demand right now, if anything's on the market, they're doing bidding wars right now, and that's what's hurting all of us. But the good news is, if I raise everybody the same amount for value purposes, your budget's not changing. What's changing is that mill rate, because that tax capacity that comes with those values, and what you need for a budget, there's a number in between that is a calculation that's used as the rate to determine what everybody pays, what piece of pie everybody pays out of the 3 different governments, but specifically yours. Does that make sense? So if we doubled everybody's value, or we cut them in half, you're still gonna pay the same amount of tax. If it's fair. Meaning everybody's treated the same, so. Make sense? Any questions? Mr. Truman looks like it's really kind of.
Well, it makes sense, I mean, but it's just the way it's gonna be.
Trust me, when I got on here, I argued with him all the time.
He did. He did. He wanted arm wrestle too. But be a little. All right. Well, we're gonna get out of your hair unless you have something else.
No, thanks for coming.
Not a problem. Good luck at your next meeting. And if you hear anything, refer them to us. We don't bite it too bad. So unless Dick will talk to you about how bad I bite, but don't let him tease you.
Abe Lincoln was president when my house was built, so.
So the gal that's on the meeting, she is listening in, or she
Abe
doesn't
Lincoln
have
was
to-
president when my house was built, so, yeah.
Well, she's not your talk.
Yeah, no, that's gotta be the high.
Well, the good news is you can tell her to contact us.
Okay.
We don't, she can contact us anytime she wants.
Melissa,
No,
can you hear us?
Where that abstract is
Thumbs up.
yellow. Abstract is yellow, it's sold.
Who's the guy remember?
Oh, really, yeah.
Okay,
She'll let me know. if she has
No.
something for you.
all right, thank you.
That one went back to
Refer her to
Frankel.
Joe, actually, Joe will give you his business card, and
Yeah, we're referring to me in that call.
he's a good guy.
Okay. All right.
If anybody were to say anything to us, we could just have to call you, Lori, to get their number.
Yep.
Okay, good, yeah, because I just wrote down, I'll just tell them that the meeting's June 15th is the end of it, so they better get on it now.
Before that, I
Before
usually
that,
say you
yeah.
have until June.
Oh, okay, June,
Because,
okay.
we have a tendency to go, oh, I got till the middle.
No, okay. Tell them they gotta get on it.
And
Okay,
then that gives us a little time to work with.
okay, perfect.
Appreciate that, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Nice to meet all of you.
Yeah.
Melissa, it's a delay in the what? Yeah, we have 2 microphones.
But, yeah,
And there's a delay.
I said I had it built for 1970.
Is it possible to try with one?
19.
We could do some testing with Melissa right now. We could,
Oh,
we could,
They said I had my full days.
oh, yeah.
Completed.
Should we close this meeting?
Yes.
No.
Can I get a motion to close?
Well,
Second? Motion made second to close the Keeping tax safe and me, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Board of Adjustment, I think. Opposed? Motion carried.